Hello and welcome to the Mirror Gaming walkthrough. It's another walkthrough again. It's Wednesday. I hope everyone's having a lovely week. It's the spicy news show full of spicy topics and the hottest news. I will try and get through that without absolutely butchering it next time. Sorry. We've got some great topics for you today. We're talking about Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. We gave it 5 out of 5 in our review, and Aaron's going to tell us why that is. We're also going to talk about EU regulators approving Microsoft's acquisition of Activision Blizzard, even though the UK's regulators haven't. That's a bit spicy. We'll also be talking about the Asus ROG Ally, as Jasmine has reviewed it for us, which is great. We'll also talk about Fortnite removing trios, really? We'll be discussing all that and much more in this week's walkthrough. Roll those intro.
Everyone thinks he or she is the best football expert on the planet.
I'm just playing for pride now. And my prize gone.
We're very passionate people here.
Oh, well, hello.
We're ready to come for the W, yeah?
These girls will smoke you, man.
Yeah. Hello and welcome once again to the Mirror Game walkthrough. I'm delighted to be joined this week by Jasmine Mannan and Aaron Potter. How are you guys? You all right?
Yeah, doing good. Doing good. Happy Wednesday.
Yeah, and to you.
Happy Wednesday, or when I was young, it was known as Orange Wednesdays because it was 2 for 1 at the cinema. Oh. So happy Orange Wednesday.
With the Panther plan. With the Panther plan. Oh, yes.
Oh, was it? I wasn't actually. Yeah. I wasn't ever with Orange. I'll hold my hands up.
Oh, okay. Oh,
nor am I with Meerkat.
Wasted that.
Movies. Yeah.
Wasted that reference then. But yeah, we're live, aren't we? Yeah, should have done a better job of the intro. Sorry, guys, but we are live. So
it's a lot of pressure that comes from hosting a podcast, man. I know.
Can't do it again. But that's the site behind the curtain, right? If you mess up, it's live. Everyone gets to see it. So, but yeah, we've got some really, really good topics to talk about today. But let's start with the biggest topic of all, which is that Zelda, The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom is out. We obviously spoke about it a little bit on last week's show, but the review embargo hadn't dropped, and we couldn't talk about really who was reviewing it for us because it was all a bit cloak and dagger. But Aaron Potter did review it for us. Aaron's on the show today to discuss it. And the news has dropped today that the game has sold 10 million copies worldwide in 3 days, making it the fastest selling game in the history of the long-running franchise, which is like incredible. Aaron did our review for us, as I said last week, gave it 5 out of 5. I'm just going to read a short excerpt from his review, but it's live on the mirror.co.uk/gaming website. You can have a read of that there. And it's also on the Mirror Gaming YouTube channel as well. But he talks about Zelda Tears of the Kingdom completely won me over by the time I reached that first dungeon. And there's sure to be a moment like that for all players, be it in the sky, within Hyrule itself, or elsewhere. Ooh, bit of intrigue there. Obviously, we played it on stream as well. Last Thursday, I played half an hour, and then we played a couple of hours on Friday as well. But Aaron, let's start with you. You reviewed the game for us. You spent the most time with it out of anyone on the team, maybe anyone in the world at this point. Maybe not by this
I won't go that far. Definitely not.
Yeah.
Definitely not.
But yeah, just give us your initial impressions from your review and what you thought of the game.
Well, first of all, I just want to ask the people that are watching, were my acting skills good last week? Hello, Nathan. You're right, mate.
Hello. Yeah, good.
Because obviously we did have to have a little preview discussion where I was actually playing the full game, and it broke my heart to lie to you guys, but I did it for your own benefit. Hopefully you're out there now exploring the game, enjoying it as much as I did. Yeah, as Nathan said, I gave it a 5 out of 5, and I was kind of shocked because, not to lift the curtain too much, but I Nathan put me on the review, which I was more than happy to do. And I literally told him, I said, there is a chance that I could give this game, if you can believe it, a 4 out of 5, not the full 5 out of 5, because I know. And there are some people out there that did that, and more power to them. And honestly, loads of respect to them, because I was never the Breath of the Wild is a masterpiece kind of guy. So to pick up the sequel, like I said, 6 years in the making, we've been poring over it for so long, and to finally dig into all those surprises and see that just what Nintendo had been doing all that time, rather than sort of giving us a new Hyrule, which wouldn't really make sense to explore and navigate. They literally just redefined the world around these 4 new powers, being Ultra Hand, Recall, Ascend, and Fuse. And now that I know that, and anyone who's read my review or watched the video will know, like, it's kind of crazy how late they left it to reveal those powers. I think it was like 1 or 2 months before that me and Nathan sat down on this here YouTube channel and watched Enuma give that 10-minute gameplay presentation where and literally my first reaction is live on the channel now is, oh, I'm not sure about this. I'm not sure about this. But lo and behold, always have faith in Nintendo. I said I'd eat my words, and no, I'm definitely eating them. Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is a 5 out of 5, and I was kind of hoping that I'd get Jasmine to crack with a laugh by doing that noise, but it didn't seem to work unless she muted herself. But no, Nathan, it's a really good.
I was laughing and I was muted.
Yeah,
that was
I
like
thought so.
the worst joke as well. And I don't know why.
No. That's the thing. You embarrass yourself when you laugh at jokes
I
like
know,
that.
I do. I really do.
Yeah, but obviously, Nathan, we played it on stream day one when it came out. We played it twice. I've seen that intro sequence no less than 4 times now. But it is good.
Yeah.
Are you enjoying the game from what you've played so far? Because I think, truth be told, you were more excited than I was for Tears.
I don't know about that. I was a bit. I think when we talked about it, obviously we reacted to one of the last reveal trailers as well. I think we talked about. I was still hung up on the map situation.
I was gonna say, as an external party, when I heard you guys talking about it, it did seem like, Aaron, you were way more excited about it. You already pre-ordering and everything, when Nathan was still like, I don't know if I'm going to pre-order it or not.
That's because I'm an idiot. Yeah.
No, but I think that you were more excited about it than Nathan was. I would
Yeah.
say. Even though Nathan is a die-hard Zelda fan and everyone knows that, he was still skeptical about it.
Yeah, I think I was, but only for very like specific reasons. To be honest, it was more to do with the sort of the map situation for me, that I was just sort of worried that by not having a completely new world to explore, it was gonna sort of ruin that experience of, I suppose, like, a brand new game that's, what is it, 6 years after Breath of the Wild? Like, I've completed Breath of the Wild. Like, I'm very familiar with that Hyrule. So I was a bit worried about if there's going to be enough new map to explore and to sort of keep me engaged. But I think the bit that won me over was when we was exploring. This is just me messing around in the menus on our stream.
Got to show the menu on Mirror Gaming.
Absolutely, always show the menu. The bit that got for me was when the Temple of Time. When I heard the phrase Temple of Time, I was in. I was absolutely in. That kind of nostalgia. I love how. Look, I haven't played it nearly as much as Aaron and nearly as much as the next guy, but I think just hearing those sort of iconic names from Ocarina of Time, which is my favourite Zelda game of all time, still, because I haven't completed Tears of the Kingdom yet, so we'll have to see how that ranks afterwards. But just having that nostalgia mixed with the new world, mixed with the Sky Islands and a couple of other new maps that we won't go into today just to avoid any spoilers. But I'm really looking forward to playing it. I'm really looking forward to completing it, exploring the world, exploring the new maps, and like you said, Aaron, the D word, dungeons. Yes, I'm really looking forward to that.
Which Nintendo itself obviously spoke about in its own Q&A, and I can't remember if I do mention dungeons in in my review, but it must have been around the similar time that they announced it. Yeah, obviously there's still secrets in there, but I was surprised to even hear them say that. And I've heard some people, we're a week out from when the game released now, which is wild because it feels like it's been longer from the amount of content I've seen from this game already and the creations that people are making, obviously. And it's interesting hearing criticism because there's people still saying like, well, they are dungeons, but are they dungeons? And I'm like, I don't know what you want, people. They're better than the Divine Beasts to me. They're not called dungeons, they're called temples, but they each riff on a different theme. And the reason people are complaining that they're not real dungeons, and this might be like a very small minority, is the fact that it's not the whole get the map, get the compass, get the small key, get the big key, but locking like certain sections of the temple/dungeons off just wouldn't make sense for a game like this, where the whole idea is to do anything and purposely break the game, like within reason. Like in a game where you can shoot up to any surface instantly, how do you contain the player in like one room? Not to go off on like too much of a tangent, but I just think it's interesting that Nintendo have dropped one of the best sequels ever made, and people are still finding fault in it. But Yeah.
Yeah, I think something that I'm really interested to talk to you about, Aaron, is when we watch the reaction to some of the new powers, particularly Fuse, the Fuse power. You were sort of like, it's cool, but is it Zelda? Like, do I want that in a Zelda game? Like, you were very sort of like on the fence about it, like even stronger than that, maybe a little bit against, like, oh, I'm not sure if that needs it. Have you been won over by that?
When you say Fuse, do you mean Fuse or Ultra Hand? Are you talking about like vehicles and stuff?
Yeah. Do I mean Ultra Hand?
I think you mean Ultra Hand, but
Yeah,
I agree
that's
with you, it's very
confusing though.
confusing.
The Fuse
100%.
and yeah, Ultra Hand.
It seems like it should be like the same power, but I think was it Jasmine? You were talking on our like day one stream, and you were asking if I could like or if Nathan could attach like 10 sticks together.
Yeah,
like just keep on fusing. They don't let you go that far.
But isn't that the whole
weapons.
point of stuff like fusing? And
No, but that's what I meant with Fuse, with the weapons.
To be sandboxes, you can like put whatever you want together. If you're going to be able to make a car or like that weird contraption where you were like hooking yourself onto a pipe and like sliding down, why are there limits to it?
There aren't limits to Ultra Hand. What you're both describing, I think, is Ultra Hand, which is literally the.
Does that mean that you can fuse 10 sticks together? Does that mean I can join 10 sticks together?
This is the confusing thing. So Fuse only relates to weapons, and Ultra Hand is everything else in the world.
So I can't make a really long stick and use it as a weapon to hit someone from really far away.
You can only attach.
So there are limits
for one weapon.
What I'm hearing.
What you're hearing is limits. But before we get off on another tangent, because this is what Jasmine does, like Nathan, it's if we're talking Ultra Hand, it has won me round because it's not what the game's about. It's there, and Nintendo have like taken extra special care to make sure that it works, and is so creative and so complex, and you can literally connect anything that's not a weapon together. Yeah. But it's not the whole point of the game, which was my fear. I thought it was going to be like, make your own fun and off you go. I'm like, well, I don't want to make my own fun. But it turns out that the controls are so simple. And I agree with what JD in the chat is saying. I believe he said that the controls with Ultra Hand are a bit finicky. Like for the first 4 or 5 hours or so, it was very finicky, just spinning them around on the X and Y axis to get them to stick how you want to. And that was my fear, and I mentioned that in the review as well. But after, you get into the rhythm of it and you find the groove, and really the sky's the limit. Literally in this game. Yeah.
Nice. Very nice. I think I thank you very much for everyone who's in the chat and watching the stream. Thank you so much, everyone. We've got Scott in the chat as usual. Scott said the Temple of Time was in Breath of the Wild too. Yeah, I know it was, but I feel like it was just sort of placed there, and you never really go back to it again. But yeah, I just felt like it was a little bit different in Tears of the Kingdom. It was more of a grander spectacle. Aaron, I don't know if you'd agree with that. It was more of a grander spectacle this time around.
I'll level with you, Nathan. I don't think like I said, Breath of the Wild, I didn't love. Well, did I love it? I liked it. I put in like my 40, 50 hours and then I bounced. And 40, 50 hours is like a decent chunk of time.
Yeah.
But I don't think I ever came across the Temple of Time at all in Breath of the Wild. I couldn't tell you where it is.
Wasn't on the start bit, the initial, the very first like church, wasn't that?
I don't.
See, Scott, this is what we're talking about. If Aaron put 50 hours into the game and he can't remember it, was it in it at all? It's like,
But that's the worrying thing, worrying, but Tears of the Kingdom, like, God knows how many hours I've put into it now.
Yeah.
But, there's still so much, again, relating to certain things that we probably shouldn't talk about, even though it's out there now, and people did mention it in their reviews, which I was quite shocked to see. But it's sort of like people are going to be playing this for upwards of 500 hours and still discovering new stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the thing about Zelda games, isn't it? There's just so much to explore, so much to do. And I've seen so many people, especially on social media, say, like, I completed this specific shrine in a way that I wasn't supposed to complete it. Because you can literally do things that weren't sort of meant. You can tell that the developers have put a lot of work into making the game sort of giving you the creative abilities throughout the game that you can create anything, like we said before. And that's something that we showed on the stream to get to a certain place. I'll probably skip through it as one of you guys are talking, so I'm not interrupting the stream. But there was one bit where I was meant to go to like a a higher bit, and there was obviously the right path, but instead I stuck like 4 logs together and just climbed up it to get to where I needed. That felt like, oh, I shouldn't have been able to do that. But then you also think, oh, was that meant to happen? But I think they've just let the player base be as creative as possible and to get around these new challenges. And that's something that's really exciting as well. If you had those sort of moments, Aaron, where you're like, oh, I'm not sure, like, was this the right way? But I've done it anyway. But like, I've done it in a bit of a weird way.
Absolutely, and for boring like press reasons that I won't get into, basically after I've reviewed the game, I've started a new save on my Nintendo Switch, which is quite nice because I'm doing literally what you described. Like, I'm doing a couple of the same shrines again in similar areas, and in a lot of cases, I'm completing them totally differently from how I did the first time, either because I can't remember or I just want to sort of like, oh, I didn't give that a go, and it's funny, like it encourages the experimentation like that. And I've seen an image. I sent an image to my friend. I don't know if it's possible to get it up here, but it's basically it's the Tears of the Kingdom cover, and instead of the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, somebody's retitled the game. I did not know you could do that. Like, and it's like that is the name of the game, or is what it should be, because you're constantly surprising yourself. And like I think it was live on stream, which the news article broke that somebody had completed the game in like just over an hour and a half, like 1 hour and 34 minutes, and I bet that's reduced now. Obviously, that's not how you're meant to play the game, but it just says a lot about you can play this for an hour or you can play it for 500 hours until you get bored.
Absolutely. So this is the bit I found the bit on the stream where I couldn't. I think probably because that time is limited. I felt like it was going to be a really long sort of way to get up to the top, and I couldn't climb it. So I built my very own sort of climbing frame little thing.
And Nathan, this is what I did on my second playthrough as well.
Oh, was it just because it's
the
easier?
Nathan Bliss strategy.
There you go. You're welcome.
That's all right, mate. Thank you very much.
So yeah, I use the Ultra Hand ability. I can see Jasmine like watching this and like, what is this?
Does this look fun, Jasmine? Are you digging this?
No.
Well, I think Jasmine's been far too quiet. Like me and you, Nathan, were positive. Go on.
You guys are talking, and I am kind of biting my tongue because there's so much I want to say about Zelda that I don't know that I should say to the general public in case I get attacked. But I will say it anyway. And you guys have to promise me that you'll keep me safe in case I get flocked. But
Promise.
I just don't get it. I really don't get it. Like, I watched you guys stream it for hours. I read so many reviews. It's not working for me. Something's not working for me. It's not clicking. It doesn't seem fun. I don't get
it's not your thing.
And I want it to be my thing so badly because I feel like I'm missing out on something, but I'm just not getting it. I'm really not understanding.
Did you play Breath of the Wild, Jasmine? Did you give it a go?
No, I didn't. No.
I think
I tried Ocarina of Time,
totally different game, but
3DS remake, and that for me, I think I spoke about this on stream before, but I spent a really long time in the starting village trying to find the starting sword, and I couldn't find it, and I got really frustrated, and I finally found it, and I was like, yeah, okay, I found it now. It's been like 3 hours. I found it. I'm going to put a pin in this, come back to it. Never went back to it. So I don't know if it's just like because I don't have the patience to sit and solve puzzles, but I don't know. Something about this game just is not clicking with me. It seems so boring. I'm so sorry to say. Watching you guys stream it, I was actually just like, this doesn't look fun. And you guys were so excited about it. And I was like, I want to understand why, but my brain just isn't. It's not working for me.
Well, I've got good
really
news.
Boring.
I've got good news for you, Jasmine, because I'm a sucker, like I said, and I fully bought into this game. To the extent that I bought the collector's edition.
Oh no!
Here we go. Here we
Look
go.
at this.
So let me put it in full screen.
Get him on full screen. Yeah, there we go.
So I do, in fact, have 2 boxed copies of the game now. If you wanted to borrow one and give it a go,
that's nice.
Kind. Look at that. That's what I'm doing. And I honestly think, like, just totally knocked my microphone. I honestly think if you play the opening Great Sky Temple section, and then it's not for you, then you'll know it's not for you. I don't know if you'd agree with that, Nathan, but by that point, you kind of get a sense of what the game wants you to do.
Yeah, I think I don't know if it's I'm not sure if it's like a generational thing, because I don't know if anyone knows this, but me and Aaron are quite a bit older than Jasmine. I know we don't look it. We look quite fresh faced.
Yeah,
we look
that's
younger,
totally not
anything.
that's totally not a running joke on the podcast that people bring up whenever anything is spoken about.
But maybe because me and Aaron have grown up with Zelda games. We've grown up with the N64. We've grown up with Nintendo consoles. We've grown up with the Ocarina of Time, the Skyward Sword.
I grew up with Nintendo consoles, but I never played Zelda on them.
I was going to say, let me blow your mind, Nathan. My first home Nintendo console, obviously I had a Game Boy, everybody did, and then a Game Boy Advance SP, was the Nintendo Wii. So I didn't grow up with like Ocarina of Time. I don't 64. Have that. 64, yeah, I never had one. But I've since gone back and played Ocarina of Time and loved it. But you're right, maybe it is like in terms of that style of game, like what's asked of you, because God knows the amount of PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 games I would play for like half an hour and be like, oh, I don't know what to do next now, so that's that game done. Yeah. And I think Zelda would, like, even just playing it today, like classic Zelda, that could happen so easily.
Yeah, we've got a few comments in the chat. Adam L says, got my pitchfork ready, Jasmine. Let's hear it. That's been and gone.
They're coming for me already.
Connor, Jasmine fresh in with the bad takes.
They're coming for me already.
But then JD, I actually relate to Jasmine, actually. I feel the
JD.
Same about Elden Ring, sort of. And then Miffy is also in the chat. Thanks a lot, Miffy, for being in the chat. He says, I feel like for people who aren't familiar with Zelda, it doesn't look that impressive, but like I want to be part of the Zelda gang.
That's what I'm saying. I'm so glad Miffy said this. That's what I'm saying. I feel like because Zelda is such a big release, right? People are saying that this is going to be the game of the decade, even though we are less than 3 years in. People are saying that this is going to be the game. I just feel like I've really missed out. People are so excited about it. People are so hyped about it. Like there's so much content going around about it, and I am just like completely in the dark, not really.
But how can you say you're missing out if you're not even willing to give it a go? Do you know what I mean? Like I understand, like I'm not an Elden Ring guy. I'm not a Souls-like guy at all.
Give it a go. It's just I've watched you guys play it and it doesn't seem interesting to me. And typically when I'm watching someone stream a game, that is an indicator to me whether I'm not going to be interested in it. Because that's what I've done in the past, is that I've watched people play games before I've bought them. And I've watched you guys play it for hours, because that whole stream you guys did, I watched the whole thing. And at no point did I think, and that was from the beginning as well, and at no point did I think, I want to do that. I want to put 4 logs together and climb up a mountain. Do you know what I mean? Like it just didn't.
Man.
I hear you.
Open world fantasy. See that mountain? You can climb there. You can go there.
I do kind of like open world games. I really like Valheim, and I like the building in there, and it's kind of similar. You can just build stuff like that, but it's like there's no story there. You can just go and do whatever. There's no like you have to go and save this princess and because she fell down a big hole or whatever. Like I don't know, something's just not clicking for me.
Saying that, I felt the same with Elden Ring, Jasmine. I watched so many Elden Ring streams from different content creators, and I was just like, nah, this just isn't for me, that sort of Souls-like experience. But one day I was just got the Steam Deck and I was like, you know what, give it a go. Bought it. And
on
I
the
just
Steam
hooked.
Deck, like a crazy person.
Yeah. But I'm hooked, honestly. Hooked. I didn't quite understand it. But then as I kind of went through it, I was like, oh, okay. And then I started looking into the lore of it. And then I'm actually like, getting quite into the story and what's going on, like the story that is there anyway. So yeah, I mean, give it a go. Give it 20 minutes. If it's not for you, then it's not for you. There's plenty of other games out there for you to enjoy. That's the beauty of gaming these days.
But that's another thing that before Aaron has offered to lend me a copy of the game, I didn't want to spend £60 for a game that I might not enjoy.
That's true.
Yeah.
That
is where Nintendo falters. Well, all 3 of the big platform holders falter compared to Steam, which I've got mixed feelings about, because obviously that can be exploited on Steam as well, particularly for those who make short games. But yeah, like there's not really any try before you buy.
£60 is a lot of money to commit to a game that you don't know if you're going to like. It is a lot.
Yeah. Look how cool this is, though, Jasmine. Look, I'm on a jet-propelled.
Yeah, but I could do this in like Gary's mod like 10 years ago. Do you know what I mean? Like, I didn't need to wait for this game to come out for me to be able to do this.
That's true. We've got Connor in the chat. I thought Aaron was your dad, Nathan. I feel like I've missed out.
Interesting.
I've missed out on
Interesting
that.
take.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Look,
It's all coming out now, Connor.
I feel like I missed something there, Connor. If you can fill me in, that'd be good. And then JD, I do feel like get the feeling some critics will give these games 10 despite having a very hard time with them.
100%.
A very hard time with
don't
them.
know.
What do you mean? Like
People probably struggle.
Let's ask JD. Yeah.
People probably struggle with the game, like solving the puzzles and stuff like that, or just like aren't enjoying it as much as they expected themselves to enjoy it. But then they just kind of like, because of the nostalgia, they kind of still have that love for it and then end up rating it quite highly. I'm not saying that's what everyone does, but there are definitely some people that will do that.
Yeah. I do think we should. The majority of games media, I feel like, have enough integrity to not do that.
No,
Maybe
I don't
unconsciously.
I don't think it's a conscious thing. This is what I'm saying. I think it's just subconscious that they have
subconscious.
They have this like love for the franchise, and I totally get it, because if I go into a game that's already an existing franchise and I just go into this game, I'm not really thinking about whether or not the game is good or whatever. This is just like as my personal experience playing games. I don't think about whether or not the game is good or what I'm doing in it. I literally just like, oh my god, yeah, this game, this is it. Like, I'm just playing it. I'm just having a good time, regardless of whether or not the game's good.
Yeah. No, it's really interesting. Miffy's been very cheeky in the comments. Looks like phone graphics. Does it come out on iPhone soon? Yeah, I was going to ask you, actually, Aaron.
Yeah.
Would the way obviously the Nintendo Switch now is an old piece of hardware, right? And they've obviously optimized the hell out of it to get this game looking how it looks, considering the hardware. But do you feel like it would have been better if it was graphically better, or do you think it just doesn't really add any? The type of game it is, it doesn't really need that.
I think Nintendo is kind of a stroke of genius setting it in the same Hyrule, because it does mean that the majority of the legwork, like that first game, Breath of the Wild, was crafted so much around that hardware, the Nintendo Switch. I know it came out for the Wii U as well, and there's stuff in this game that Enuma is on record as saying that they couldn't have done on the Wii U. So there are some improvements there, but I think that's more like memory related as opposed to strict graphics, fidelity, or visuals. Because I put it in my review, like this game is on par with Breath of the Wild. There's me showing off my macaroni cheese, by the way. That was good. I don't care what Jasmine says. Macaroni cheese for the win.
Looks bad.
So like but your question is like, would this be improved if it looked better? And for
that's
me,
my point.
I've never really been a graphics guy, but I tell you what I am becoming is an FPS guy. Like, we were talking about the Redfall thing. Me and Jasmine did a stream a couple weeks ago, not to bring up the R word again, but like playing a shooter was noticeably
I didn't think I'd ever hear those words come out of your mouth.
I know
that being an FPS guy.
That shocked me. I feel like I need to step back a minute.
Because
primarily a console player. Yeah.
I just feel like you always play games where FPS isn't particularly important, right? Like,
it depends on the type of game. Like Zelda, 30 FPS. And
fine.
I'm having a whale of a time.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. What FPS you running on Paladins these days, Aaron?
Well, I play that on Switch as well, so I'm probably playing like sub 15 FPS if I'm honest. But I still get those kills, Nathan. Don't worry about that. That reminds me, actually, I've got to transfer my save, otherwise I'll lose all my.
It's going away, isn't it? Unfortunately, Paladins.
Paladin support on Switch is going, not Paladins. Don't worry, it's still sticking around.
There you go.
So it looks. I think Nintendo are the kings of art style, right? We saw that with Wind Waker when that originally released. Like that, people ripped into it at the time because it didn't look like Skyrim. And then which ones aged more gracefully, Wind Waker or Twilight Princess? I think it's going to be the exact same situation. 20 years from now, we're going to be looking back at Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom and think those games still are stunning. I feel confident saying that. Yeah,
okay,
I do.
Interesting. I mean, I don't know whether or not to agree or disagree with you. Like, I just find that an interesting opinion. But I think that what it definitely comes down to is, like you're saying, it's like art style. It's the way that they've stylized the games, because they're working with some pretty old hardware now. Nintendo, for the Nintendo Switch to release a game that looks this good, so much of it is down to the art style they've chosen, because it's obviously a significant improvement from their first games where Link's nose was literally just a triangle on a circle. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But it's not as is never going to be as stunning as some of the games that you get out now on like PC and Xbox and PS5 and stuff. But it's just the way that they've done it.
Yeah, what I will say though as well is what we're forgetting as well is this. Obviously, we had to connect the console to a monitor to be able to stream this, right? And most people are going to play this game on a handheld device, the Nintendo Switch, which has a smaller screen. And if it's on a smaller screen, the graphical fidelity matters so much less than if it's on a big screen. On a Nintendo Switch, it looks amazing. Like even on, like an OLED, for example, it looks great. And it sort of doesn't matter. It sort of doesn't matter about how good the graphics are compared to like a Warzone 2 or a Fortnite, whatever, because you're looking at it on such a small screen that like your eyes just wouldn't be able to tell the difference anyway at that on that resolution sort of thing. So maybe we're not. I mean, blowing it up like this, as you can see, but there is a bit of screen tearing as well. But that's from my capture card, not from the game itself.
I played and reviewed Star Wars Jedi Survivor recently on PS5 in performance mode, and there's no way you'd catch me playing that game at 30 FPS now. So I played that performance, and I still think it looked pretty good. But there's no doubt in my mind that in 10 years we're going to look back at Star Wars Jedi Survivor and be like, the graphics were good at the time, and then we're going to look at this and be like, oh yeah, it's still got a lot of personality and charm. Because like the game I always go back to is GTA 4. Like at the time I was like, oh wow, that game looks incredible. And you go back to it now and it's like a brown foggy mess.
I think so much of this charm just comes from
like, Jasmine, I can't nostalgia. I'm about to log off this stream saying charm in inverted quotes. I can't. I fear for the kids of today, Nathan.
I don't know. We'll have to rewind it after.
I think it just comes from nostalgia. It comes from people's love for the game, and that's why I feel like I'm missing out as well, because I want to look back in 10 years and be like, wow, this game has so much charm, but instead I'm going to look back and be like, oh god, like, what is this? Because I don't have any attachment to the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, I don't have any attachment to Wind Waker in particular because I didn't own a GameCube, but I still look at that and I'm like, whew.
Yeah, but you've got an attachment to the franchise.
Not necessarily. My first Zelda game was Twilight Princess, and then I went back. But anyway, I take your point, and I just want to say in the chat,
and then I went back, but I've got no attachment to the franchise. Sorry.
What I mean is that I wasn't like a 4 or 5-year-old kid opening like the Ocarina of Time at Christmas.
Like me,
I didn't say that you have history with it. I'm saying that you like the franchise. It's not about history. You like the franchise. You went out of the way and you played.
Oh, Aaron, you
games.
like
You're
burgers,
going to have an attachment.
So you're going to like every burger out there, aren't you? No, I'm not. You get some. I almost said a bad word then.
Yeah, I don't think that's
well, Breath of the Wild is nearly 7 years old. It's almost 10 years old now. We can look back at that and that. I mean, that was pretty good
because it's running on the same hardware as this game.
Yeah.
Jasmine, did you say you didn't want people to come and like meet you earlier? Because you're not doing a good job.
Right. Anyway, move on.
Every opinion's a welcome opinion.
We've got some comments. So Jasmine is a Redfall stan now.
I absolutely am.
I can't believe how much we talk about Redfall. After how much we pan the game, it is amazing how it always crops up.
Apparently, it runs great on the ROG Ally.
Yeah,
though,
it does.
Yeah, which are we talking about? Yeah, exactly. Scott says, "I'll take the super impressive physics engine over realistic graphics anyway." Yeah, is a good point as well. Scott McRae with the Rayman Legends love looks better than any game release in the last 5 years. And then Connor's also big up Rayman Legends, and also JD says Rayman Legends is spectacular. Miffy says, honestly, some of it looks cool, but stunning is a reach to me.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for saying that. Thank you.
Nobody used the word stunning on this podcast.
You did.
I said it's got a charm and a personality.
You said that it was stunning.
Rewind the tape. Let's hear it.
I think we're actually live, so we can't rewind it. As much as I want to redo my intro. We've also got a comment from JD as well. I think the lack of desire for 30 FPS shows how manipulated by new technological capabilities we are. If a 30 FPS is good, that's all that matters.
Frames is dependent on the genre of game you're playing.
Yes.
You're not going to need more than 30 FPS to play a game.
Why isn't Wordle running at 120 FPS? I'll never get this Wordle today.
But it does, like, if you're playing like a shooter, then you want You want frames, yeah.
Yeah.
If you're playing a story game where you're just open world, exploring the environment, sticking logs together, it's not going to really like make
Sticking logs
too big.
together.
That is what you were doing. It's not going to make too big of a difference to your like gameplay. That's why like graphics in terms of like the visuals are a bit more important in that aspect for those types of games than frames.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think I agree. I think playing Elden Ring on a Steam Deck, obviously, I don't get 60 FPS.
I would never get over the fact that you do that.
I don't understand the. I mean, I love playing Elden Ring on the Steam Deck because I just play it for half an hour and the battery goes. Look, I'm not saying the battery doesn't go. The battery goes so quickly, but it just gives me a chance to pick. Yeah, easily. But like, it gives me a chance to pick it up and get through whatever I need to do to then move on to something else. Whereas normally I'd be able to sit down on PC, boot it up, load the launcher, wait for it to load, and
say, whenever Nathan brings up the whole Elden Ring Steam Deck thing, which is kind of running joke by itself, it always makes me think of that meme from Arrested Development where David Cross is like, "There are dozens of us, dozens."
If anyone else plays Elden Ring on the Steam Deck, please come into the chat.
The way you turn to the camera, like this is a call out. I'm asking for help.
Yeah. Please help me. Adam L, can we have a Jasmine Aaron stream where Aaron talks Jasmine through her first playthrough through Tears of the Kingdom?
If Aaron isn't entirely bored of the game yet, then we'll consider it.
I think we should
He's
make that happen.
watched the intro 4 times.
I'll watch it again if
he'll watch it again. Let's do it. Let's do it. I mean, look, Jasmine, if you're up for it, obviously, Aaron, you've got the spare one. That's very nice of you to lend that to Jasmine. If you want to do it, Jasmine, let us know and we'll do something.
I have to really think about this. I have to really think about if I want to commit.
And we've got the perfect title. Zelda Hater plays Tears of the Kingdom for the first time.
I will take that. I am a Zelda hater. Yeah, that's fine.
Cool. So let's stay tuned, everyone, to the Mirror Gaming YouTube channel because it might be coming soon. But yeah, I mean, as we talked about, it's sold 10 million copies worldwide, so it's doing pretty well. People must be enjoying it, making it the fastest selling game in the history of the long running franchise. I just can't wait to like really get into it. I'm at this place now where I've got Elden Ring that I'm so close to completing now. I'm going to bring Elden Ring up again just for a minute. But I'm so close to complete it now that I feel like starting a new open world game, it's going to give me a little bit of anxiety. Like having like 2 open world games that I've not yet finished. So I feel like I need to finish that first before I really get stuck into it. But stuck into it, I will. Miffy there says as well, I'll be here. I'll be there for moral support, Jasmine. There you go. Miffy will be there with you.
So much. Yeah, I need someone else that's a Zelda hater there with me.
This will be the second person I've guided through the opening of this game on the channel.
Absolutely.
How many other people can say that?
Yeah. You know, and how many other people can say that they've been they've had their deal approved by EU regulators? That's our next topic. Because another person that can say that is Microsoft, because EU regulators have approved Microsoft's acquisition of Activision Blizzard. This is mere weeks after the CMA, the UK's regulatory body, rejected the deal. The European Commission has announced that it's approved their proposed $68.7 billion buyout of Activision Blizzard via a statement on its website. The findings state that even if Microsoft did decide to withdraw Activision's games from the PlayStation, this would not significantly harm competition in the consoles market, even though they found that Microsoft would have no incentive to refuse to distribute Activision's games to Sony. Despite the approval of the deal, the EU also shared concerns held by the CMA about the competition in the cloud gaming services, but they talked about how cloud gaming services is very limited in terms of market compared to everything else as well. And then the EU also talked about remedies that Microsoft proposed for the deal as well. Obviously, we've talked about the CMA's decision a lot, and we've gone back and forth on, is it a good thing, is it a bad thing, all that kind of stuff. But it's interesting that the EU regulators are so the other way in this case. Aaron, I can see you highlight. I don't know who's highlighting these things, if they want to talk about it first. But Jasmine, what do you think when you first heard this? What was your initial reaction?
I wasn't surprised.
No?
No. But I am still. It's like I still have the same perspective that I've had since I spoke about this last time I was on stream, which was probably a couple of weeks ago now, where I said, I don't understand why Microsoft are still doing this. That's my only perspective that I have right now. Why, Microsoft, what are you doing? What are you actually doing? You had a chance. You had a chance.
They're almost out. They're almost getting out of it.
You had a chance to walk away. You could have walked away with your $68 billion still in your pocket. You could have done that. What are you doing? What are you actually doing? I really need answers from you, Microsoft. I'm waiting. I want them in my inbox tomorrow. I'm so confused. I really don't get it. This was their chance to walk away. And now they kind of can't, right? Because the EU regulators have finally approved it. So now if they back down, they're going to look like they're the ones that have sort of got their tail between their legs type of thing. So now they can't. Now they have to go through with it. And I think this is the worst thing that they are doing right now. I just think it's ridiculous. But it's just the same opinion that I've always had. Yeah. I think we'll always have.
Yeah, well, I was going to you first, Jasmine, because I wanted Aaron to stew a bit on some of the comments that are in the doc. Aaron, what was your reaction to the EU regulators' statement?
Not surprising, especially because this is what I think everyone was predicting would happen. This is what I don't think it's as much of a shock as the UK's the CMA's decision was, obviously, but I thought it was interesting. This just goes to show that everyone talks to everyone before it's ever made public. The CMA were ready with a statement just in case Microsoft wanted to use this. Well, the EU regulators just approved us because the CMA said our stance does not change. And this is one of the few instances where you'll find me saying, well done, UK, and what you do in EU, in the gaming world lately, because it's kind of, but then I don't know how deeply you want to get into it because they
as deep as you want, Aaron. As deep as you want.
Okay. The annoying thing is that I'm happy the UK has blocked Microsoft's attempted acquisition of Activision, but it's annoying because they've done it on what I admit are stupid grounds with this whole cloud gaming thing, because I sort of tend to agree with Microsoft that the market doesn't really exist yet. And I refuse to believe that the CMA is so forward thinking that but maybe I'm not giving them enough credit. Maybe they have got experts in this technology side. I'm sure they've got the resources to do that, to sort of forward think enough and predict, because that is what you should expect these regulatory government bodies to do. And we're seeing that sort of thing with AI now. All these tech companies, they're implementing, uses of AI before the government is quick enough to move and regulate on it and potentially, save loads of jobs. But that's a different conversation entirely. The only thing I need to know from the EU regulators' verdict, obviously they approved it, is this one line here. Even though they found that Microsoft, quote, and I think you already read this, Nathan, would have no incentive to refuse to distribute Activision's games to Sony. Well, if they've got no incentive to refuse distribution of Activision games to Sony, why did they already do it with Bethesda's games? And this is the thing that continues to baffle me. Because the EU, they're right. They're why on earth would Microsoft leave that money on the table that potential PlayStation owners would pay for the Call of Duty money, right? But Microsoft has already proven it doesn't care, and it's already set a precedent for removing games out of the pockets of specifically the PlayStation audience. Don't care what weird cloud service platforms it wants to bring these games to or continue bringing these games to. So I don't think... hopefully that stance isn't surprising to people. It is kind of insane that. And I think people, because it's funny, because as soon as the UK verdict came through, people were like, oh, that's it. The deal's off now. The deal's off. But then the EU regulators are like, we approve the deal. The deal's back on. The deal's back on. When the truth is
this is what I said. This is what I said is that if Microsoft want to do something, they will do it. It doesn't matter who says no. It doesn't matter who stands in their way. They've got enough power, enough money, enough influence, enough lobbyists in the world to do whatever it is that they want to do. It does not matter.
But it's funny, because you said at the beginning of this conversation, you don't know why Microsoft just doesn't take back its 68.7 million and go home. When the truth is
billion.
Sorry, don't let me forget, with a B.
Billion.
There's to use a journalistic term, there's a kill fee embedded where if they do step away, they've lost 3 billion, which in the grand scheme of things, I can't believe I'm actually saying this.
3 billion is nothing a lot of money compared to the rest of the money that they're now paying.
Of course.
It's nothing, which is insane because 3 billion is an insane amount of money.
But the point I was going to make is that where people flip-flopping, the truth is that until Microsoft takes the FTC to court, or it's the other way around, actually, until the FTC attempt to sue Microsoft in court, that is when the big decision will come. Because these are the big three regulators. No offense to people that live in countries like Chile and stuff like that. I don't know why you would take offense to this. But even though your regulatory body has approved this deal, for whatever reason, I'm not a lawyer. That doesn't carry enough sway to block the deal entirely. For some reason, it's the UK, EU, and US. I guess those are the three biggest Western markets, something like that. So the truth is that they're basically 1-1 at the moment. And the only way it all comes down on the American pipeline.
Now. Yeah.
It's the tie break. Maybe we should pop this into a football sim and work it out. What goes on? Maybe
Lewis is in the chat. Let's get it on. Let's get it on FIFA or EA Sports FC. Simulate it. Yeah. Lewis is in the chat as well. Jasmine went proper brummy then. I feel like we missed that moment. But I feel like I'll rewatch the stream and see if I can cut it out maybe for some short form content. No, don't just to flip it around the other way, our friends over at VGC News, another reputable games outlet, their editor Andy Robinson, he tweeted earlier this week, he said, "I find it really difficult to believe the UK is going to put itself in a position where Microsoft could be forced to spin off a special Activision Blizzard UK and give every country Call of Duty on Game Pass except UK consumers. But then again, Britain." So if you look at it from that point of view, the UK's CMA are sort of holding UK consumers back in a way by not having it on Game Pass, like maybe restricting it to just people who buy the full game.
But doesn't that also mean that residents in the UK who own a PS5 can actually access the game if they want to? Is that how it works?
It's apparently it's up to Microsoft, isn't it? At the end of the day, if they own Activision, then it's up to them.
Yeah.
It's like what I've seen theorized is that Activision will have to license out, or Microsoft will have to license out Call of Duty publishing to someone else once Activision becomes under their wing, whether that's Ubisoft or somebody as strange as Capcom. Like, I don't know if this is ever realistic, but as I said to you guys,
Call of Duty.
I don't know. I won't put it past Microsoft. Like, if it's got to be published by an independent authority, Minecraft is published by Microsoft on PS5. Weird things like that because they own it. It's interesting though, because basically what the UK have said is you're not allowed to conduct business that way in our territory. To which I said, well, okay, I'm perfectly fine with Call of Duty not coming to Xbox Game Pass, and Microsoft secretly should be too, because that means they'll have to continue selling Call of Duty piecemeal in the UK on Xbox, despite Xbox Game Pass being of lesser value in the UK because Call of Duty isn't on it. But at the same time, to me, this will never happen, and I don't think the CMA could put this in place if they wanted to. If nothing is to change and that Call of Duty is to continue being distributed in the UK only, as it has always been, then I should still be able to play Call of Duty on my PlayStation console. And all the way around the world, should Xbox ever remove Call of Duty and make it a console exclusive, it'll be gone. This is never going to happen. And what is more likely to happen is that they just stop publishing on both Xbox and PlayStation in the UK or whatever. But it's kind of like, that's the point here, is that it shouldn't, I don't think they're going to want to give up the UK dollar to that extent.
Yeah. And we're obviously waiting to hear the appeal. Microsoft and Activision are appealing the deal with the decision, the CMA's decision, for it not to go through. So we'll see. But I think we talked about the appeal process. Unless something was seriously wrong throughout the process, I don't think they've sort of got a leg to stand on. But we'll see. It's just really interesting how one regulator can be so for it, and then one regulator can be so against it, and you don't know as well. Like we talked about last week from Phil Spencer's point of view, right? About how we can't really believe what he says at this point because we don't know if he's saying it for the CMA. We don't know if he's saying it for another reason. I feel like this sort of thing's happening for the regulators in that we don't really know the sort of politics at hand here and not underhand stuff that we don't know, that maybe that's kind of fallen into different bits and bobs as well. So, Connor said, the UK is so wild. Watch them backtrack for absolutely no reason. I mean, that could happen. Then some MP gets hired at Microsoft. Priti Patel at Microsoft or something. That'd be interesting.
But the CMA, they just had an opportunity to backtrack when the EU decision
Yeah,
came in.
yeah,
They doubled down on their decisions.
Double down, yeah.
Maybe it feeds into Jasmine's theory where you've got, people in the CMA going, Microsoft, the lobbying fee ain't high enough, mate. If you can afford 68.7 billion, then chuck a couple bill my way.
Wow.
I don't know.
That's it, yeah. And 3 billion. I mean, how many Redfalls could Microsoft make with 3 billion, do we think? Just the fine of not going through with it, like.
Yeah. I think most AAA games these days, they tend to cost anywhere between 200 to 250 million, which is more money than like a lot of Hollywood movies. Like that's like the Marvel end and like Pirates of the Caribbean, they cost that much. So, but having said that, Zelda has just sold 10 million, so Nintendo instantly recouped its costs. It can pay dividends still.
Yeah, absolutely. The CMA did respond, as you said. They said Microsoft proposals accepted by the European Commission today would allow Microsoft to set the terms and conditions for this market for the next 10 years. They would replace a free, open and competitive market with one subject to ongoing regulation of the games Microsoft sells. So yeah, they went pretty hard on it. They'll still need to convince the CMA because they said that they're entitled to take a different view, the European Commission, but the CMA stands by its decision. So we'll have to see what happens there. I mean, just one final thing on this.
Sorry, I just wanted to say it's interesting that the CMA immediately doubled down on their decision. Like within minutes they had the statement prepared and everything. And it is like Aaron was saying, like it means that everyone is talking behind the scenes. There's stuff that they're not going to release to the public yet or to the press yet until they're completely ready and the CMA know all of this stuff. But it is just like, I don't know what I expected the CMA to do. I think I just didn't expect them to respond so quickly. I thought they'd let it marinate, for like 24 hours or something. You give it some time before they double down on their decision to let people sort of like process what's happening or anything like that. But they didn't. They kind of just like straight away jumped in.
I don't know about you guys, but like this is a rare instance where, and I won't keep going on about it, where I'm sort of like proud of the UK for having some integrity and like sort of trying to get ahead of this thing. Not to say that the EU regulatory body doesn't have, backbone and stuff like that, but it's just like there has to, like, when's it going to stop? Like, how big can a company get? Like, it's not going to aid competition. It's going to shrink it. So, like, what is the benefit? Like, it's as simple as that, really. I don't understand it. It's just how much bigger does one company need to be? Microsoft. And it's not only that, but like Microsoft is doing a poor job within the industry it's trying to buy its way into. I keep on saying it. Like, it's not adding value. And people were like, oh, people are so short-sighted. Like, maybe, not to generalize whatever, but, when the whole CMA thing got blocked, people were like, what? So no Diablo 4 on Game Pass then? No. You should, if you want to play Diablo 4, I mean, Blizzard have just given you 3 different beta attempts, so they've been more than fair in letting you taste that game. But it's that assumption of like everything's just on Game Pass and we're all hamsters being fed just the drip of the water and the games keep coming and coming and coming. Like that's what I appreciate about Nintendo and PlayStation. When their games are released, it's an event, and like Xbox just keeps fumbling it. So if they were adding value to this space rather than just wanting to buy something and then recoup the costs over a period of, you're probably looking at like 20-30 years minimum before it recoups the 70 billion back. Like, I don't know. Like, I just don't know what the end game is here, really.
I don't know if they'd ever recoup the losses. That's what I was always thinking. If, given what we've seen from Redfall, given what we've seen,
Halo.
Is that a good sign? No, they're never going to recoup these losses. 70 billion is so much money that even in 20, 30, 40 years time, I reckon they'll go bust before they recoup these losses. And that's an insane thing to say, thinking about Microsoft ever going bust. But that's just like, I just can't ever see them, given the quality of games that they're happy outputting, ever making this back.
Yeah, consolidation is bad. I think we can all agree, right? The fact that you can just be so rich you can buy other publishers willy-nilly is a really bad thing. And it makes it, like you said, Aaron, it makes it all the worse that Microsoft aren't launching any successful games right now. So the trust isn't there either with the general population about Microsoft actually doing anything with Activision when they buy it, what they're going to do with it. They've not shown us anything in the last year, 2 years, that they can launch anything successfully without, bugs or having a Redfall or a Halo, and we've got Starfield coming out this year. I mean,
in my mind, Xbox hasn't released a first-party game, a solid first-party game since Forza Horizon 5. And was that 2021 or 20? It definitely wasn't last year. So maybe it was like the tail end of 2021. And it's kind of like you can't do that when you've got people have invested in your console.
Yeah.
And it's not like speaking to keep on the topic of the CMA, like the whole recouping the investment thing. I agree with like what you guys are saying, and Jasmine especially. Like they'll never recoup their investment. But it's not only that; it's like they're not educating their customer base to want to recoup that investment, because their whole thing is play anywhere you want, aka you don't need to buy a console, and subscribe to Xbox Game Pass, aka you don't need to pay full price for a game. So it's like, if that's your business plan, then how are you extracting money from the people? Because you're not paying 70 billion unless you expect to get it back.
Just like, that's hard evidence that Xbox Game Pass is not going to be like right now. This is one thing that I will always put my hands up and say is that I love Xbox Game Pass for making games more accessible. And I totally understand where you're coming from in that games are worth paying for, but accessibility within gaming is like a really important thing to me. So I think that making games like really affordable is great, but that's not their intention. That's never their intention. It's never going to be their intention. That's not why they've made Xbox Game Pass. Xbox Game Pass isn't there to make gaming more accessible. It isn't there to allow people who are on a lower income to be able to play games with their friends, still have access to all of these great titles still. The point is it's exactly the Netflix effect. It's to get people hooked while it's on a lower price, make people reliant on it, and then hike it up to such a point that people won't be able to unsubscribe from it, because they've become so used to just having games on Game Pass that even if it is sort of like 25, 30, 40 quid a month, people will just think, oh yeah, I'd still rather pay 40 quid a month than pay 60 pounds for every new release that comes out each month or whatever it is. And like Aaron has been saying for the past few streams, right now we are in such a good time in terms of like AAA games coming out this year. They've been amazing coming out this year, and even though all of them aren't on Game Pass, that's obviously their end goal, is to get all of them on Game Pass, so they can charge extortionate prices for Game Pass. And even if that is their model right now, it seems like this isn't going to happen. They're bleeding, but eventually that is what I feel like the end goal is to just hike up the prices.
Guess what? Every subscription service is hitting the ceiling, and I feel like I hear it more and more. People cancelling their subscriptions. Cost of living's going up at the moment. Everyone's like, do I really need these things? And if we're just keeping it within the Xbox, like, so you subscribe to Xbox Game Pass, Jasmine? I do. Nathan, do you subscribe to Game Pass? Yeah. When was the last time any of us finished a game on Xbox Game Pass?
Never.
That's not what it's for. It's just try a game, don't like that, move on to the next one. It's junk food. It's what Netflix is. It's just move on to the next one. So, and then that feeds into the whole artistic debate of like, well, games, people, 90% of players don't ever see the credits of a game anyway. And I feel like Xbox Game Pass exacerbates that. So they could jack the price up to the point that is a price of eventually it'll probably be $70 per month, because hey, that's the price of 12 games a year. And yet you're still getting, over 10 times that, because we offer about 150. So, but I feel like Microsoft has been a bit too late. They're playing the long game, but people are becoming more and more savvy with their money. And Xbox games aren't movies. Movies you can finish in an hour and a half. Games can be anywhere between an hour to 100 hours, and it's just not a thing. But on that bombshell, guys, I'm going to have to love you and leave you. So feel free to disagree with everything I've said on the stream.
I've been waiting for him to leave so I can say that he's wrong the entire time.
I know Nathan's going to back me up on the Zelda chat, so I don't have to fear that. So apologies, I have to go. But have a great rest of your stream, guys, and I'll see you.
Bye, Aaron. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Have a good evening. Thank you. So, there's just two. Hello, Jasmine. How you doing?
Well, thank God that guy's gone. Oh, my God. Don't need to talk so much. Should we just bash him for the next half an hour now that he's not here?
No, let's not. We love Aaron. We've got a couple of comments in the chat. Let's go through them. Connor, I love this comment. Pretty would ban all imported games. That's very true. JD said, my guess is that Microsoft is too powerful to fail, so making nonsensical and ludicrous decisions shouldn't be surprising.
That is what I was saying. It doesn't matter what they want, they will get it, because it's Microsoft.
Yeah. And I think Aaron is actually in the stream, Jasmine, so we better be careful what we say.
He heard me.
Haven't gone far. Hey now, Aaron, Don't worry, we're moving on to our next topic. Our next topic is the amazing. Well, I won't call it amazing. I'll let you go for it. Actually, it's the Asus ROG Ally. Jasmine has been hands-on with the device, reviewing it for us. We did a stream last week showing off some gameplay, which did amazing on YouTube. Thanks to everyone who watched that stream. Coming in at £699, it really is a Steam Deck compared to. We've spoken for weeks, haven't we, on the stream about how it's all about the price, where they're going to position this compared to the Steam Deck, and that price is so aggressive. It's really great to see. It launches June 13th. You won't be have to. Oh, there it is. Jasmine's showing it off. Yeah, I mean, just after having it for a couple of weeks, and you've been on trains, you've been on buses, you've been on mountains, you've been underground.
Don't know about mountains. I have been underground, but I don't know about mountains.
How have you found like living with it day to day?
Before this, the handheld that I used the most often was the Nintendo Switch. And I feel like the Nintendo Switch and a handheld gaming PC are two like vastly different consoles. So it's really hard to compare in terms of handheld perspective, because I haven't had a Steam Deck. I've used a Steam Deck. I've used your Steam Deck, and I found that it was just okay for me. It wasn't as comfortable as I would have liked it to have been because it was quite heavy and it's big for my hands.
Very big.
Yeah, it is big. However, with this, having a handheld, I feel like has made me really lazy because my gaming setup is in my bedroom, right? My bed is just there, as people know, because you can see it in the background of my streams. And somehow I have found it tiring to get up from my bed from there and walk here, 5 steps here to turn my PC on and play games now that I have a handheld, because it kind of feels like, what is the point? And I have a decent PC. I play games at high frame rates and stuff, and I still don't ever feel like, oh yeah, unless I'm playing like a shooter, I don't feel like, oh yeah, I want that extra performance boost. I'm going to take those 5 steps so I can get that extra performance boost. That's how much I've loved using the Asus ROG Ally. I would rather take the frame cut, because the frames and the performance on it are still so good. Yeah. Just so I can sit comfortably in bed, or just lay on the sofa or game on the go. There's just so much more you can do with a handheld. And like you were saying, this is why I kind of stopped criticizing you a bit about playing Elden Ring on the Steam Deck after I got a handheld, because sometimes it is just about having that quick 15-20 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, just when you've got a short amount of time, you kind of want to play a game. And 15-20 minutes when you're gaming on a PC is like the time that it take for you to get the game open. Like launching the PC, waiting for everything to open, waiting for the game to open. What if there's an update?
Updating,
stuff. Like it feels like it takes about 15-20 minutes just for you to kind of get in the zone. Whereas with a handheld, you just pick it up, you use it, 15 minutes. It probably take you a minute for everything to set up, and you turn it straight off and you're done. And it does give you such good flexibility, especially for people who are very busy. It's not just about like laziness as much as that's why I'm using it. It is also about flexibility, I think, and it is, in that sense, so fantastic to have a handheld. But I feel like that hasn't really gone into detail about why the Asus ROG Ally specifically is great. And let me tell you, the performance on this thing is insane. It's so good. I was getting like 100 frames. I've got let me get my charts up here. I've got my charts up.
I'm looking at the charts. Yeah, it's impressive.
Yeah, at 1080p, I was getting 98 frames on Injustice 2, 97 frames on CSGO, 66 frames in Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, 62 frames in Valorant, and 30 frames in Cyberpunk because it was capped due to optimization issues.
Right. Okay.
So can you imagine if that wasn't capped? Can you imagine at 1080p on a handheld, on this thing, and you're getting above 30 frames once optimization is sorted. You're getting above 30 frames on Cyberpunk, which couldn't even run on like the Xbox Series X correctly at launch.
Yeah.
And now you can play it on this at above 30 frames per second, 1080p.
Yeah.
How insane is that?
Yeah, it's like, imagine like 5 years ago, we didn't have the Steam Deck, we had the Switch, right? That was the handheld console to get. Like having games, the word playable. Like compared with these games, like you just wouldn't think they'd be playable on devices, like. But the fact that they're like not just playable, but they're like a good experience. Like to
Yeah.
have like in a hand, it's just it's mind blowing to me. And obviously, you know, I've talked before about, you know, Steam Deck and playing Elden Ring on it and stuff, but
Yeah.
like genuinely, like it's so great to see like competitors to this, because we're only going to see
Yeah.
see movement in the space. Asus.
Yep.
You know, there's manufacturers out there that normally follow Asus in terms of what they do, like looking at MSI and like all these guys.
Whoa.
They're gonna have stuff in the pipeline. They're gonna have stuff in the pipeline.
That is exactly what I am so excited about.
Yeah.
Is that this is kind of like Steam Deck was the first one. That was like,
Yes.
okay, is anyone else going to bring out a competitor, or is Steam Deck just going to be it? You know, in that sort of sphere of consoles.
Yeah.
And it was years, and people were like, nothing's coming.
Yeah,
What's happening? Is Steam Deck just the handheld gaming PC and there's nothing else? Then this came out. Then the Logitech Cloud came out. The Logitech G Cloud came out.
Yeah.
So already within 5 months of this year, we're seeing 2 new handhelds enter the market already.
Do you think just quickly, do you think that Valve sort of blindsided everyone else, or do you think that they were just, because they said they would develop it for over 10 years, I think Valve were talking about, they've been doing it for a long time in the background. Do you think that they kind of blindsided everyone else? Everyone was working on stuff in the background, or do you feel like when the Steam Deck came out, everyone was like, we need to get on? Do you feel like they were kind of a step ahead, everyone?
Asus said in their launch event, I know that we have some conflict about launch event here at Mirror Gaming, I won't go into, but Asus said at their launch event that this, and they said the same thing to me when I attended the media preview, that this device has been in development for a decade now. And the thing is that when you're not internal to the company, it's hard to know whether they're just saying it or whether that's actually the truth. But I will say Asus were some of the first people to move into the world of portable gaming with gaming laptops. That wasn't a thing that people were really doing before Asus started it. Like, it definitely was in pipelines for many different companies, but Asus was sort of the first ones to do that. So I can imagine that they were working on something like this for a really long time, because portability, gaming, all of that is like something that they've always worked on, always brought about. But I think whether or not this device is insanely successful or competes with the Steam Deck or whatever the case is, doesn't particularly matter as much. It just has proved now, because we're already seeing pre-orders for it are insane. In some regions, pre-orders are sold out already, even though Asus said that they wouldn't sell out. So realistically, the demand for this device is insane already. It's not even released yet. Even if it doesn't surpass sales of the Steam Deck, and I'm not sure that it will, because people now already people who have a Steam Deck probably aren't going to pick this up, even though the performance is better.
Yeah.
Even though that is the case, it is just insane to see competition in the handheld market, which hopefully will jumpstart other companies, if they haven't already, which they should be doing.
Yeah.
It will incentivize other companies to create their version of it, and hopefully it won't be as bad as Logitech's edition. Sorry to say.
Honestly, I think I was made aware of this recently, which I'll share with everyone. But I think this basically backs up your point that this is in the works. This is a concept that Dell released 3 years ago. 3 years ago. Alienware, Dell Alienware. What does that look like to you?
It looks exactly like the ROG Ally. That's insane.
Yes.
Look at that.
So that was 3 years ago,
the
right?
Same device.
Yeah. So if these guys like Alienware, Dell Alienware are the same people. Alienware, MSI, Logitech, Razer, help me out with hardware companies that can make it. Corsair, Nvidia
will come out with their own thing.
Microsoft potentially, you know, all these companies. I guarantee they've got stuff working in the background. But it does feel like Valve were the first guys to sort of get something and be like, guys, we've done this, we need to get it out, sort of thing.
But the thing is with Valve, with the Steam Deck, is that on initial release, the Steam wasn't making money.
Yes.
it was bleeding
because it was
out.
so aggressively priced.
Yeah,
compared
and
to,
Valve were able to afford to do that
yeah,
because it was their sort of like only staple hardware product,
yeah,
right? Valve don't have other hardware products. They've got like controllers and other bits like that, like stuff that's not particularly like staple. It doesn't
yeah,
matter if you just have a controller or whatever. This was their first and only staple hardware product that they brought out, so they could afford to bleed a little bit on it to make their name in the hardware market a bit more.
yeah,
And given the amount of money that they make off of Steam, the platform, given the amount of money they make off of software sales, like little manufacturing involved in it, there's not all of these sunken costs. Like they make so much money with it, they can afford to bleed, whereas some other companies aren't in that position to do that. And I'm not saying that these big companies don't have tons of money to put into R&D for these types of consoles. They definitely do, but it's whether or not they're willing to make that sacrifice of losing money just so they can get their heads in that market.
Yeah, and they don't own Steam, like you said as well, which
Exactly.
is the big thing, because Steam is so heavily integrated into, obviously it runs Steam OS, the Steam Deck, and basically that encourages people to buy more games, which means more money for them. So they've got like a system in there integrated as well. But it's an interesting point you make, because Asus, this is a big deal for Asus, because you feel like. It feels like everyone sort of, I can imagine like the people at MSI, the people at Corsair, they're just like looking and being like, I wonder how this is going to go. Because if Asus don't sell hundreds of thousands of these, they won't support it, because it's not going to be worth it to them. They need to sell so many for it to be worth it to them. And if they don't sell that amount, we might not see a competitor for quite a while. I feel like the pressure's sort of on at this point, even though you did say it's kind of sold out and it's been really popular. It'll be really interesting to see like sales figures for this, because it does feel like they need to sell a lot of these.
Yeah,
I
can't wait to see sales figures for these. And that's like the most boring thing I've ever said. But I
can't wait to see the spreadsheets.
But I genuinely am really excited to see sales figures for these. And the thing is that they've also got like the cheaper model. So the model that's coming out in June is the Z1 Extreme, and then they've got the standard Z1 processor, which is coming out in Q3, is what their launch event said, and that is priced at £100 less. I do think that most people, even when that model is out, will still opt for the higher end machine, because for £100 more you're getting like such a big boost in performance. It makes sense. But it does mean that they are putting out an option which is a little bit more like, is priced a little bit more with the consumer in mind. Not that this isn't a very aggressively priced machine already. But after that comes out too, can you imagine like what the sales figures will be across both of them? It would be insane, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, and if you think about like where the processor came from, obviously AMD have made them like a custom processor for this Asus ROG Ally.
Yeah.
Like you feel like as well, how many CPUs have Asus had to buy from AMD for AMD to even consider making this chip for them in the first place? Like if you imagine rocking up to AMD and being like, "Hi guys, we're gonna do like a handheld gaming PC. We need like we think we might sell 1,000. Would you make us 1,000 custom?" And they're gonna be like, "Go away, like, it's not worth it to us."
Literally,
But like, so I wonder how many like CPUs they've had to order, and that's gonna be it. Like from a pure business point of view, it's how much like have they ordered from other people? How many Asus ROG Allies did they need to sell to recoup the initial investment that they've had to put in? I think that's just what it's going to come down to.
I think given the price of it, I think that Asus are probably bleeding a bit with this device as well. I think they are.
How are they making money from? They're only making money from the device, though, aren't they? They're not making money through, like, with their client and everything.
No, because it runs Windows 11.
Yeah,
but that's why I feel like
they've got to be
they
making a little bit.
I reckon they're bleeding. I think the thing is as well is you have to think about the investment they're probably putting in to help game developers optimize their games for the platform. That stuff's not going to be cheap. It's not going to be free. They have to put all of that into it, alongside this 9 years of research and development they've been doing, that they've claimed before bringing the product out. And the fact that it is only £699 /dollars / whatever other regional pricing it is around the world, it is so cheap given the given the performance that it brings to the table in comparison to the Steam Deck, all of these different, and no matter what you add to the end of that sentence, it is very reasonably priced.
Yeah.
So surely they are bleeding. Surely it doesn't make sense that they are profiting off of this. And maybe that's their ploy, is maybe that, because we've seen it for the past 5 years. Hardware has notoriously launched at a very affordable rate, and then after a year, 2 years, it's gone, hey guys, we are doing a price increase. We've seen it with the Meta Quest 2, we've seen it with the PS5, we've seen it with the Xbox consoles, we've seen it with everything. It is, okay guys, we are putting the prices up. Maybe that's what will come. That's what happened with the Steam Deck. Maybe that's what is soon to come. Maybe it's going to launch at this really cheap price. It's going to get people invested. It's going to get people excited. People are going to pick it up. And then suddenly people will start to feel left out that they didn't, because it's going to go up by an extra 100 quid, 200 quid.
I think they've got to be making a little bit, maybe not a lot, but they've got. I don't think they'd have released it if they'd been like, okay, we're not going to make money. If we price it like this, we're not going to make money. I feel like the execs at Asus would have been like, nah. I feel like they've got to be making. I think if you look at what it is, right, the Ally, there's a lot of manufacture. There's a lot of design that have gone into that, right, from designers and engineers and things, right. But it's essentially a laptop that's been packaged smaller with a screen on it.
I will say one thing that pops up.
Yeah.
When it pops up as a device on Steam, it comes up saying tablet.
Right. Okay. So it's sort of a. If you think of tablets and cheaper laptops, for example.
Yeah, they're very similar.
That sort of price. Yeah. So you in that price range, I feel like they're making. I don't know, it'd be hard to say, but like they've got to be making at least 50 quid, 100 quid at a time. I would say for them to even release it. Especially if they're making a loss and they've got to sell a certain amount, like if they make the loss adds up.
What I think is that they're also selling 2 different iterations of a dock, and they're also selling all of these accessories that you can pick up to use with it. Yeah. So the Steam Deck comes with a carrying case already.
Yes.
The Asus ROG Ally, you have to spend 50 quid to get yourself a carrying case. Maybe that's where they're making up the lost profits. Maybe of carrying cases off of these docks. The dock that I've been using during my testing process comes with an inbuilt 4090 in it.
How much is that?
That dock will set you back £2,100. £2,100 or $1,999. $2,000 that dock will
for a dock.
For a dock.
And that's not a 4090 desktop GPU in that, right? That's a 4090 laptop GPU.
It's a 4090 laptop GPU for $2,000.
They're definitely making money on that, Jazz. 100%.
I don't understand as well why they've worked so closely with AMD on this chip and then put an NVIDIA graphics card, an NVIDIA laptop graphics card in.
Maybe they wanted to. Maybe they wanted to, and they didn't want to. Yeah,
it is a bit more staple now to say 4090. Everyone knows what that is.
Yeah,
but I think that's where they're recuperating the losses.
Yeah,
I don't think that they're making money on the device itself. That's just my opinion. I don't know why we're even talking about this. I wanted to talk about
it's interesting to me
of the device and stuff. But this is just like thinking out loud. That's what I think.
Yeah. Well, talking about taking a loss or taking an L, should we go on to our next topic? Fortnite update 24.40 is here. It's brought a brand new ranked mode to Fortnite for the very first time, so you can play against other players in a ranked mode where you can rank up and you can, it's in an ultra competitive mode. But players are confused because they've axed the trios mode from Fortnite, removing it from both Battle Royale and Zero build modes alongside the launch of this latest update. So you can basically... if you've never played Fortnite before, you can play solos, duos, trios, or squads, where you can play as a 1, 2, 3, or 4. So trios has been taken away. We've seen this happen with Warzone, where they change the playlists on a weekly basis, where they sometimes remove like trios or duos or whatever. But we've theorised that that's normally to give the player base a chance of connecting to games and to make the game feel more popular than it is, because if they remove a playlist, exactly. So if they remove a playlist, they're going to have more people going into the certain playlist, and it's going to be more full, right? Fortnite has not got that problem, right? People are playing it all the time. It's still one of the most popular games in the world. First of all, why have they got rid of it, do you think? And two, how do you feel about it?
Maybe they are facing that issue, not because people aren't playing it, but because they split into so many different queue types now. Because you've got
as well.
Build mode, no build mode, ranked build mode, ranked no build mode. I don't know if they've replaced Arena with
Arena's gone.
Mode.
Arena's gone. Yeah, Arena's gone for good, yeah.
But there you go. Because even when there was Arena, you couldn't play Arena no builds. You could only play builds in Arena. So there wasn't so many different queues. So if you think about that, 4 different queue types for each of those: solos, duos, trios, squads, and then however many queues. There's so many queue types. I don't know if that's going to be a problem with Fortnite, because I just feel like there's so many people always playing that game.
Yeah, I don't think I've got that issue.
But that's the only thing I can think of, because why else would they axe trios, even if it is the least popular queue like size out of all of the modes that they've got on offer? But there's still no reason to axe it. Like, you can still always connect games in it. You can always find a game. You don't have to wait ages and ages. And personally, I always play trios. I had a group of 3 of us, and we always played trios, and now it's gone.
Ouch.
So what am I going to do? What am I going to do?
Well, that's the thing. What did you feel when you first heard this? Like, what was your first reaction?
I was just confused. I was upset, but I was just confused. I still am confused. It doesn't make sense to me, and I don't get why they haven't explained why. They've just gotten rid of it. They've just said, like, it's a little like bug fix. Do you know what I mean? They've just put it in the we're getting rid of this, by the way. It's gone now. There wasn't a warning. There wasn't like in a month's time we're getting rid of trios. So if it's just you and 2 other friends that play, and there's just 3 of you, get your last games in, and rest in peace. They didn't do any of that. They just literally added in one line in the patch notes. Just we're getting rid of trios, by the way. What are you talking about, Epic Games? I want answers. Are you listening? I want answers. I really want to know. What are you doing? I don't understand.
Well, I think that's the thing, though, isn't it? As well, if you're in trios, it's such a. If you go to squads, you've got someone random in your team. You've either got someone random in your team.
Person.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So you've either got one random person in your team, or you go into squads with a trio. So, like, you're always at a disadvantage as a trio, unless you drop someone, which you're not going to do, right? Because you want to play with your friends. Yeah. So it's just such a difficult. Like, I just don't understand why would it hurt to just leave it in? I just don't get
exactly. That's what I don't get.
Yeah.
There's no way that them leaving it in was like costing them as much as it is taking it out. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, maybe I'm not phrasing that right, but it just doesn't make sense to me. There's no reason for them to have taken that out.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense with Warzone because no one's playing.
Because no one plays Warzone, so it does give that illusion of there are tons of people playing this game. You can connect to a game really quickly. Fortnite, you don't have that issue. I never in a trios game was sat there waiting for like 5-10 minutes. Whereas even in Warzone, even when I was playing solos, I'd wait like 5 minutes just to get in. I never ever had that issue in Fortnite. Yeah. You can straight queue off the back of one game into another one. You don't even have to return to lobby or anything. You just go straight into the next one, and it takes like 30 seconds and you're in. Yeah. And that's it. So it doesn't make sense. I want an explanation. The only thing I can think of is what I was talking about with now that there's tons of different queue types.
So many modes and stuff, yeah.
So if you've got 4 queue types and then you've got 4 different like
creative as well. They've got the creative
They've got creative. Maybe they lost all of their battle royale player base to creative mode. Maybe that's what they're not telling you.
Maybe.
Oh yeah, we've got such a big player base, but they were sitting in creative mode. Maybe that's what it is.
Maybe, but it's a sad thing. I've got some comments that I forgot to read out. So Adam L says, back in my day, we had to rev up the dial to log into RuneScape. Now you can play a AAA without leaving bed. Yeah, it's amazing, honestly. Elden Ring on a handheld is amazing. I can't imagine what Cyberpunk would be like on a handheld. That's also
really,
amazing.
really good.
Yeah. And then Connor says, Windows 11 on these Steam S devices give me the ick. Yeah, I think that was my biggest sort of.
Why?
that was my biggest thing about the Ally, was that Windows is just not optimized for a handheld experience, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they develop that. No,
I it's not all the way there for sure, but I wouldn't say it's not optimized. You can still use it relatively well. But this is the thing, is that when there are issues with software, you know that those are going to be fixed.
Yeah.
As opposed to issues with hardware. Like if it came out and it was just like overheating all the time and the buttons didn't work or something, then yeah. But you can tell that with software stuff, they can just bring out patches to optimize that further. But in my experience, I haven't found it very difficult to use.
And have you plugged it into a TV and played it?
Yes.
On that,
yeah,
and what's the experience like?
Yeah, it's okay. When using it on a TV, I did have to plug a mouse into the dock to use because that's where it kind of gets a bit like, okay. But you can use gamepad mode to scroll around your screen and stuff. So if you've got a controller plugged in, you can do that. But I just personally don't like that. Like, it just takes a bit long using a joystick to move your cursor around the screen. So I just plugged a mouse in and had that on my coffee table. Cool. Which was weird.
Yeah,
but yeah.
I hope that's I know it wasn't a question, Connor, but I hope that's answered your thing about having an ick with the Windows 11 devices. I just also wanted to touch, while you're here, Jasmine, I wanted to touch on the Overwatch 2 issues. Activision Blizzard, I've been talking about them a lot this podcast, but they've confirmed the original Overwatch 2 PvE mode has been cancelled in order to prioritize the live service game. So in a recent developer live stream, they said that the story-focused PvE mode has been scrapped as there is no end in sight or defined end date with development. Yeah, what's your thoughts on that, Jasmine?
The whole point of this podcast is just to make me really upset. I think it's been the running theme. We spoke about Zelda.
Not trying to do that. But...
I don't like Zelda. We spoke about the Microsoft Activision deal. Don't like that. Spoke about the Asus ROG Ally. I spoke about bleeding costs. Spoke about Fortnite Trio's gone. Now speaking about Overwatch. This title of this podcast should have been Jasmine Cries at the End. But with Overwatch, I am genuinely so confused again. Today has been confusion. I've got ducks spinning around my head like I'm dizzy because I don't understand what is going on.
You've got a loading circle.
No, literally, I don't get it. The whole point of them swapping from Overwatch, okay, not the whole point. The biggest point of them swapping from Overwatch to Overwatch 2, moving from a paid game to a free-to-play game, was so that they could release this paid story mode, this paid campaign on top of their live service Overwatch 2 game. They wanted to be able to release this as a paid addition to the game. People were so excited for it. That was the whole point of them moving to Overwatch 2. People were like, yes, hero mode is what it was meant to be entitled, is meant to be coming now. And hero mode, the thing is with Overwatch, with a game like that, you don't get a lot of insight into the lore behind the characters in the game, despite how many voice lines they have, despite how many cinematics Blizzard make about it. There's very, very little insight into the lore behind these characters, which is just like criminal because these characters in this game are really, really cool. But this was meant to be like it. Do you know what I mean? It's meant to be the story behind the characters. It's meant to be like, yeah, you can finally get to see what the characters are like, see their relationship with each other, see how they all affect one another, blah, blah, blah. And it's meant to be co-op. You're meant to be play it with your friends. And now it's just gone. That's it. And they said, people are going to be like, oh, but Jasmine, they said that they're going to bring missions. They're going to bring story missions into the game. What's that going to do? What's that actually going to do for me? What is a story mission? Think about it, Nathan. You don't even play Overwatch 2, right? Here's the comparison. No. A story mission versus hero mode, right? Just hearing the two names, do those sound even remotely like the same thing?
No.
Yeah. Exactly.
No, they don't. No, they don't.
A mission in a game is nowhere near what a whole extra paid DLC campaign story mode is meant to be. Two completely different things. So the fact that they're even trying to smack us in the face with that and say, yeah, by the way, we're bringing out these missions. Some of them are going to be lore-based and some of them aren't going to be lore-based, blah, 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 blah. Okay, if you're going to push me over, you don't have to kick sand in my face after you've done it. You don't have to do that. It doesn't make any sense to me why they even are trying to like cover their backside with that like claim is that, oh yeah, it's fine because we're going to bring out missions. There are missions already in the game and people do not care. People don't care.
Were you bothered about an end? Just what I think. Aaron's joined us once again. Talk about getting kicked in the face. Aaron's joined us back in the podcast. Do you want me to add you back, Aaron? Give me a chat. Yeah, there you go.
What do you mean by that? A kick in the face?
Because we're metaphorically kicking you in the face while you weren't here.
I see. No, I'm enjoying Jasmine's thoughts on Overwatch too. Because
no defined end date got me. Like, surely you'd have been patient enough to wait for this. Why have they just given up on something?
They have been making this game since 2016.
That's a long time.
2016. It's been 7 years. And okay, I understand they're maintaining a whole other game on the side. The live service games, 2 separate games. Okay.
Yes.
So Riot Games did. Riot Games have League of Legends. They have Valorant. They have Teamfight Tactics. They have Legends of Runeterra. They brought out their new Mage Seeker story series earlier this year. I'm a big Riot Games fan. Okay, yeah, maybe I'm a little bit biased, but that's what they did, and they're just Riot Games. They're not attached to Activision Blizzard. Okay.
Yeah.
Secondly, I'm getting so annoyed. I'm getting really, really annoyed. Okay. You can't promise. Essentially, the way they're getting away with this is they're saying that it was meant to be an addition to the game that they now can't do because they want to focus on the original basis of the game. Even though that's what they said, that's not what it was. This was a whole independent game on its own that they've basically cancelled. And people aren't enraged enough, in my opinion, about that. They've basically cancelled a game that they've had in development, that they've promised for 7 years, and they've just cancelled it, and it's just gone. And
why not just delay it? Why not just delay it? Why cancel it completely?
I think I'm guessing what's happened internally is because they probably thought to themselves, they probably set themselves loads of deadlines over the course of the past 7 years, and they've never been able to hit them. They've been delaying it and delaying it and delaying it over the course of 7 years. It's probably gotten to a point now that it's more trouble than it's worth, and they're just axing it all, incorporating what little they've actually been able to design of the game into missions. Are you serious? Missions. So that's their way of not completely binning it all off.
Yeah.
So they can say they've made something from all of these hours and hours that developers have put into it, that they're probably really disappointed to see it go. I can't imagine that any of them are, thrilled about this. But realistically, it's like they've just cancelled a whole game. And on one end of the spectrum, it is kind of like I always say, I'd rather wait a really long time for a game to come out and it be in its full state, a playable state, where I'm actually happy to have paid money for it and whatever else. Don't want tons of Redfall copycats coming out.
No one would want to copy Redfall.
But on the other hand, it's like there's no way you have been working on this game for probably more than 7 years. There's no way they haven't been working on this mode since before even the first Overwatch came out. It was probably in development alongside the original game. There's no way you've been working on this game for that long, and now you're deciding to bin it off after you've released Overwatch 2, which whole purpose was so that you could put this DLC into it. Why did you even go free to play then? Why did you even swap over to Overwatch 2 then? What was the point? You're telling me you couldn't have made this executive decision 8 months ago? Sorry, just had to check the date.
Check your calendar.
You couldn't have made this executive decision 8 months ago before the release of Overwatch 2, before people who had put hours and hours and hours into Overwatch 1, who'd spent money buying Overwatch 1, got a bunch of in-game cosmetics and stuff from it, then lose a bunch of stuff when they migrate over to Overwatch 2. It wasn't everything that they lost, but you lose a decent amount of stuff migrating over to Overwatch 2. Yeah, great for inclusivity purposes or whatever, accessibility. More people are going to play because it's free to play. Cool, yeah. Don't make a promise to your already existing player base and then double back on it. This is what I'm saying. They pushed me to the ground and then they kick sand in my face. They didn't do one or the other. They did both. Be for real. What is going on?
I can feel your frustration, Aaron. Sorry, Jasmine. Aaron.
I know
usually me
it
that's
is
frustrated.
normally Aaron.
Yeah,
it is normally
sorry,
Aaron
I'm
that's gone
just
on a
I'm
rant,
thrown
yeah.
off. I'm thrown off completely. But Aaron, it is annoying, isn't it, when games get cancelled or delayed or whatever. But yeah, it's also never nice when the player base are promised something and they don't get it as well. It's just a shame that this stuff has to happen, and it's probably a shame that we probably have to end the podcast right there, guys.
Yeah, sorry for going on so long.
No, it's absolutely fine. Thank you so much, both for joining us on today's podcast, Jasmine. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for your chat today with Zelda and Microsoft and ROG Ally stuff and Fortnite and Overwatch. And thanks, Aaron. No worries at all. Thanks, Aaron, for popping back at the end. Really appreciate it, mate. And thank you for being on the pod, as always. Really great show. You have a good time there? Good time off?
I was working, believe it or not, in a way, and some exciting things are happening. But I just want to say, like, as an Overwatch, as a single player shooter games fan, I am in those that probably not as much as Jasmine. That I'm incredibly frustrated that we're not getting a single player focused campaign for Overwatch 2.
It wasn't single player; it was co-op.
Well, it'd be that classic. It's playable in single player.
It's playable single player, yeah. But it was meant to be co-op. That was the whole fun of it. Is that you obviously when you play Overwatch, you normally have like a group of friends that you play with. So the point was that you could take that same group of friends and play this campain with them. Anyway, if I start talking about it again, I'm going to get really angry.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah, I don't play Overwatch, but I can understand both your frustrations on there, and yeah, where do we go from here? I don't know. The only place to say, I think the only thing to say is goodbye from here. So thank you both for joining us on today's podcast. We'll see you at the same place on the YouTube channel next week on Wednesday at 4 p.m. for the next Mirror Game walkthrough. But I'm sure we'll do a live stream or two in the meantime. So make sure you subscribe to the channel to catch any of those. And we've got a few videos as well that will be going up over the next few days. So make sure you get those as well. But for the Mirror Game walkthrough, we'll see you next Wednesday at 4 p.m. We'll catch you soon. Bye bye for now.
Bye bye.
Bye 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 bye.